Okay guys, give you an update on the motorcycle trailer I'm building here. Worked all day yesterday working on some wiring, and as you can see, I like to use split loom, on the stuff that's exposed, and the white is the ground, and I ran it up here and I connected to it, grounded the frame, and then I run a white wire all the way through the frame, splitting it on both sides. I wanted the ground to be both on the wire and in the frame, because you eliminate your problems by doing that. It's easier to see across the other side, because there is a marker light there and right there. I used 4 amber lights, 2 on each side, and the wiring comes down the middle to right here at this location, this rib, and there's tubes welded underneath there, and it goes off and it comes up and I got all them tied in there. I use that ground to run up to that. It's a tractor light. Eventually, I'm going to have a jump start box in there. I'm going to cut the wires off and use big connectors, so I could put a jump cables on it and use that to hook up to that box, which is going to hold all my electronics, and there's going to be a winch up on top of there. And I'll have a switch somewhere that will run these lights that will illuminate this motorcycle trailer at night. The tread step, I used this trailer here not too long ago. My underneath that cover, I'll show it in another video here shortly. I got rid of the gold wing and I got me a BMW adventure bike, and didn't even get 1,000 miles on it, and the damn transmission broke. Or I think it's a shifter fork lodged in between a couple of gears and locked it up. So motor runs, transmission don't. Neither does the clutch. Anyhow, back to this. When I put that up on there, you remember how I had them glued down? Well, this one peeled up somehow, and which is weird because it didn't have the motorcycle under power. Now these screws and washers, them are the screws that you use to hold tin down, siding. So you use a nut driver, and I used fender washers to hold it in place, and I re-glued it. But it's still, that's the better way to do it. Again, on the wiring, it comes down through that tube. You can see how I got the loom over it right there. It comes down, it's zip tied up to right here, and it splits. Comes down to this area right here, and then runs through this tube straight back to these lights. You can see anywhere where I got the wiring exposed, I zip tied up, did split loom, come up like that. This one, I did this cage around here. I'm thinking on doing that expanded metal, put a piece on top, maybe a little brace right there, because that top will, the top and this side will protect that. And I put that old mount back on, and I try to keep these licenses as loose as possible, because if you mount them tight, they knock off easy. If you mount them loose, they'll just flop around like that forever. This is protected pretty good, and it lights up behind the black, and that's the reason why I did the black, so the red will light up really good. I got my tires changed. That's a 6-ply right there. Re-greased the bearings. That's a 4-ply, but it's a spare. And I redid the studs. You remember the studs were threaded double, well, they were threads were tore up. I put castle nut with a nut right there to lock that in place. I was going to weld these. Then I ended up just offsetting it with that using a fender washer, and lock nut, nylon lock nut. And so that'll be okay. I think I got them at about 55 psi too. Put some front mud flaps on there too. Try to help it out. My 2 cases, that's where I'm keeping all my straps. I'm going to put tools and other stuff in there. I did a safety system, or a lock system on here, and I'll show you. See how that hasp is? I ended up putting that hasp in a let me think. The back side of that, these little D-rings, I had one and it pulled apart, so I had to weld up the back side of them, and so I set them out with some nuts, and yeah, I sealed it up with some RTV. It doesn't look pretty, but it does the job. I needed to offset it a little bit more, but it looks like with a little lock it'll work. And I got, like you can see on that one, I got them on all of them, all 4 sides, so the lids can be locked down pretty good. And I got good bases to hold them, so they're really good and sturdy. And I put all my electronics in that old box. I tripled up the wheels right there, and it's so much easier to move in the yard. It doesn't get stuck. It moves around really good. This style, you just got to put a lot of lube inside here, and it stays okay. A couple things that what I was looking at while putting this thing together kind of perplexed me and caused problems was like the old lights have they're hard to see, but you see a green and a brown. The brown kind of looks gray, and a white. White will be your ground. These lights I got back here have different colored lights, and that may be causing a problem. And see how it says right there, tail brown, stop and turn light green, and it says right there curbside. You know, this one will be for this side. Yeah, this side, which would be the right side, I guess. But both these lights got to where half, when once it was on this side, half of the LEDs worked and the other half didn't. And I could see some moisture inside this one. I may have to, and there's a vent hole right there. But, you know, I put stuff on top to try to keep moisture out of it, but it still didn't. Kind of disappointed. These things just don't seem to last worth of crap. And they cost too damn much. Well, while I'm at it, this is my soldering gun that I paid like 60 or 80 bucks for this stupid thing. 2-stage, 200 watt low, it's a 2-stage trigger, 260 watt high. And I thought that because that's supposedly the best one out there, and you can get the most work done. I mean, when I want to solder, I don't want to sit there and wait on it. I want it boom, boom, done, and go to the next thing. But I go through tips like crazy, you know, and I get corrosion here, which stops these tips from working right. And I clean and clean and clean. I go through tips like crazy, even though I do clean the tips and everything like that. And then this last time I was working on this thing, I ain't kidding, I was sitting there like 10 minutes waiting for that stupid wire to heat up so I could solder it. And I get tired of that crap, and I, you know, for a high-end tool, this is a piece of crap, and it's because of this system up here. And yeah, I clean this top. I dunk it into flux, and I do all that stuff, retin it, all that crap. Clean these, all that other stuff. I do all the tricks, and it still is a pain in the butt. And then I discovered this. While I was out here working on it, I keep these to do shrink wrap, to make the shrink wrap, you know, just suck up around the wire. And I was wondering, I wonder if this will heat up a wire enough for me to solder. And so I'll put it down there, and it's got a tip where it comes out. It concentrates that heat in one area. And I think I paid $1, and I could put I could refill it. Yeah, it's still half full. And this thing put out so much heat, and it was like within 2 or 3 seconds, I could put that wire on that solder. After, you put flux on your wire, you heat this up, you smoke off the flux, and then you get some heat to it, then you hit it with the solder. And this thing worked like a charm. And I'm like, this is $1. That's $60 or $80 of junk. And I thought, my gosh, I discovered something great. So I was able to work 10 times faster and all. And you're saying I took all day to wire it. Well, I messed up. When I ran the wiring, I didn't run the ground, and so I had to pull it back out and run the ground with the wiring. So I basically wired it twice. Joy, joy. And you can see on this side how my clearance lights are up, and that was because that box is in the way. But these are low draw, and these are the power to this, and I got them laying up here because eventually they're going to go in to this box, and I'm going to put a switch somewhere here. But I'm just doing stuff up. I need this trailer to be able to pull. I may have to go get I have to go get some parts to fix that motorcycle up there. So anyhow, that's where I'm at, and like I said, this is a great design. Oh, I did move that back one because I got a bigger tire on the BMW. And on that trip that well, I went and rescued the BMW when it broke down in this thing, and it pulled great, and it was easy to load. We just had to push the bike up there. So anyhow, want you guys to see an update on this. I got a few more videos to do, but y'all have a good one, and we will catch you later. Bye.